Diversity is our strength, which is the single dumbest phrase in military history. Of course, our diversity is not our strength. Our unity is our strength, our shared purpose, the flag we wear and the Constitution we serve to defend. And when you clear that debris away, whether it's Marxist ideologies or social engineering or political correctness or quotas based on gender and diversity, you get the best of the best rising up, regardless of gender, regardless of race, motivated by that environment where merit reigns. It's accountability, standards, lethality, readiness, training, all the debris wiped away. That is the secret sauce of the revival of the War Department and why Americans are attracted to serving in it and why those inside it, why morale is sky high. And any insinuation that it is not are coming from folks who haven't been in our units recently. Go visit the troops at every level, and their morale is at record levels.
And I want to talk about morale with the 15 seconds that I have left. I want to thank you for coming to St. Louis for your Arsenal of Freedom tour, where the next generation aircraft, the F-47, is being built by the hardworking men and women in Missouri who take a tremendous amount of pride for that aircraft that's going to go further, see further, go faster, have a bigger payload. And I know there's another decision coming with the FA-XX, but really appreciate your leadership, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Schmidt. Senator King, do you wish to ask unanimous consent to include your exhibit in the record?
Yes, please.
Without objection, that will be done. Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Americans are paying a high price for Donald Trump's war with Iran. We've got 14 service members who are dead, over 400 more who are wounded. Prices are rising for nearly every American family. But someone is profiting off Trump's war. Insiders who know what's going on and who place bets on that inside information. On March 23rd, just 14 minutes before Trump unexpectedly posted about, quote, very good conversations on ending the war, traders suddenly bet $500 million on the price of oil, which, once Trump made his announcement, immediately dropped. It happened again on April 7th, and then again on April 21st, a surge in oil bets, then a Trump post, and then a huge shift in oil prices in just the space of minutes. It looks like insiders have been making out like bandits, using secret information about the war. Now, one U.S. soldier has been charged, but that was for betting on capturing Maduro months ago. Not a single person has been charged in the many, many, many trades over the Middle East war. So, Secretary Hegseth, do you have any explanation for these perfectly timed spikes in trading activity other than insider trading?
Senator, all I can tell you is that everything we've done in our department, everything we've done with information, in working with the White House and across the interagency has been completely above board.
Well, so what does it mean? Do you have any other explanation other than insider trading? Do you have a story for why just minutes before there's an announcement, there's a surge in trading activity?
Senator, I'm more than focused on doing my job and ensuring we execute properly, which thankfully, under this administration, our troops have done incredible things in all these missions. My job in all of those moments is to make sure we're prepared. And that's part of the reason why we've been so successful in these raids, in these efforts, is that this joint force is prepared.
You're saying you're not paying any attention to this insider trading. Is that what you're telling me? That you've paid no attention to this? You haven't noticed it? You haven't done anything about it?
What I'm saying is we're focused on our mission of executing for the American people, and what happens in markets is not, in betting markets is not something we're involved in.
What happens in betting markets doesn't matter to you, even if the information may be coming from insiders in your office?
Senator, it's not something we're involved in at all. And of course, we take operational security at every level very seriously. In fact, no one's taken operational security more seriously than us. If you look at what it required to keep secret Midnight Hammer and Operation Maduro, the absolute resolve with Maduro, and the steps we've taken, so no one's been tighter about ensuring that operational security is ensured.
To deal with insider trading out of your office?
I mean, we would ensure at every level that inside
Okay.
information
I
is
take that as a no.
properly
All
safeguarded.
right. Well, obviously you're not. I'm also concerned about recent reporting on your own financial dealings with regard to profiting from the war in Iran. The Financial Times reported that your broker tried to buy hundreds of shares in a BlackRock fund invested in defense companies just before the war began. The law clearly prohibits the Secretary of
That
Defense.
entire story is false, has been from the
Let me
beginning,
finish
and
my
was made up out of whole cloth. And anybody that looks at it sees how it was
law-
worded from the beginning to make it look like I was involved in something I had nothing to do and never have. So any
law-
insinuation that I've ever profited, other than serving this nation, what I give, what you give, what others give, I'm not looking for money. I don't do it for money. I don't do it for profit. I don't do it for stocks. And that's part of the reason why I'm able to be effective in this job, because
Then
no
let
one
me
owns me.
ask my
No one owns
question,
this department. No one
Secretary
owns this
Hegseth.
president, and we
Let
can
me
execute for
ask
the
my
American people,
questions.
and we
The
do.
law clearly prohibits the Secretary of Defense from owning stock in the 10 biggest defense contractors. Other senators and I sent you a letter with detailed questions about this, and you have not given us a response. So I'd like to hear you say, did you, through your broker at Morgan Stanley or otherwise, seek to invest in any defense-related funds right before Trump started the Iran war?
I'll give it to you as a big, fat negative.
Then let me ask you a second question. Is your broker getting your personal sign-off on any investment in individual stocks?
Bigger, fatter negative.
He's not getting your sign-off before he makes investments in defense stocks? Can I refer you to your
I'm not
ethics
making investments,
agreement?
Senator.
I am asking, does he know that he has to get your sign-off before he does that?
Of course.
The
I
time
don't know what
of
you're
the
looking for, but you ain't
senator
going to
has
find
expired.
it.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
I would like to enter into the record the ethics agreement that the Secretary of Defense has signed, that he will sign off personally before his broker makes any attempt to buy defense stocks.
Is there objection?
Thank you.
Without objection, it will be admitted. Senator Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Hegseth, you're doing a great job. I've been in Washington for 10 years, several secretaries of defense, now Secretary of War. You're the best that we've had since I've been in Washington. What you've done to restore readiness, restore military recruitment, get the Pentagon focused on warfighting is second to none. And I appreciate what you and President Trump and General Caine are doing very much. In fact, General Caine, according to the Department's 2025 China Military Power Report, quote, China believes the next revolution in military affairs will occur when militaries transition to intelligentized warfare and fully integrate artificial intelligence, big data, advanced computing, and other technologies into the joint force, end quote. Can you describe, General, in greater detail how the PLA is using AI to enhance its military capabilities?
You bet, Senator. They are attempting to integrate AI across the range of their warfighting functions, which extends to command and control, information advantage, intelligence, certainly kinetic and non-kinetic capabilities, and to a certain extent, sustainment. I'll note that so are we. And in many cases, we are out in front of them. I want to commend our chief digital and artificial intelligence officers inside the joint force at the COCOMs with the services, who are also leaning very far in as we march towards a digitized joint force that allows us to see and command and control the force better.
The China Military Power Report also goes on to note that the Chinese AI sector remains, quote, constrained by its limited access to high-performance AI chips. General Caine, how big of an advantage is it for the American warfighter that America's arsenal of compute is bigger than China's?
Sir, it's critical to us, and while I acknowledge there's all kinds of chip issues in this, it is important to us to continue to scale at that. And I'll highlight a lot of the work going on up at Fort Meade that the committee's helped to advance in the cyber capabilities. So we appreciate the help with that.
If that advantage were eroded and China were able to develop more advanced AI capabilities as a result, what are some of the potential consequences for American warfighters?
Well, sir, it could certainly put us at risk, and that's why we're leaning in so hard. There's always a balance between commerce and protection. I acknowledge those are policy matters, I think, is what you're starting to get towards. But on a pure military-only standpoint, we would see some defense in depth eroded from that.
Secretary Hegseth, do you agree that enhanced Chinese AI capabilities could put American service members at risk?
Senator, we absolutely have to stay ahead. The advantage that AI provides apply to any number of capabilities, whether it's domain awareness, targeting cycles, you name it, AI and leveraging it, and that's why we've made it the forefront. I mean, it's AI first with everything that we do, integrating it at every potential echelon to ensure we can respond faster. If we're better at that than any adversary is, it's going to give us an advantage, and we have to maintain that.
I agree. Do you agree that we should do everything in our power to ensure that American service members go into battle with an overwhelming and fear-inducing technological advantage, particularly with AI?
Always. Overwhelming is the goal in every scenario.
Earlier this year, the Pentagon issued updated guidelines that prohibit department funds from supporting grants and contracts involving fundamental research collaboration with blacklisted Chinese entities. How important are those restrictions to safeguarding our technological leadership?
Have to have them, especially when you look at the power of models and all of those things. And you have connections to entities that could have connections to your adversary, and you can have degradation of your advantage.
Again, this is where I appreciate your leadership, Mr. Secretary, which has been second to none. And I know that you will work with Congress to help codify those restrictions and encourage taxpayer dollars to never advance the capabilities of our enemies and our adversaries. I appreciate both of your leadership. We've come a long way in a couple of years.
About whether this will be an American-led century or a century defined by authoritarian, autocratic regimes that care little for the needs of their citizens or those in neighboring countries. The Chinese Communist Party has accelerated its historic military buildup and its predatory economic practices against Americans and countries the world over. Xi Jinping leads not only China, but also an axis of aggressors. This growing alliance cannot be denied. It includes China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. They're united around this goal: to oppose America's interests and the interests of other like-minded democratic countries across the globe. Vladimir Putin's war of choice in Ukraine has now entered its 5th year. In Putin's objectives, we hear echoes of the imperialistic ambitions of World War II's aggressors, including Adolf Hitler. Vladimir Putin has suffered 1.2 million casualties and failed miserably in his military objectives. Along the way, he has transformed Russia's economy into one fueled by war, raising the prospect of an even more aggressive Moscow for the foreseeable future. Most of Iran's leaders are now deceased, but they and those who survived them have consistently sought violence against America, Israel, our Gulf allies, and the Iranian people. We saw this during the October 7th massacre, during their continued support for Hezbollah and Hamas, and in their desire to engage in nuclear blackmail. Iran's ayatollahs have consistently represented a threat to American interest. Kim Jong-un has joined Mr. Putin's war of aggression. He continues a military and nuclear buildup that threatens South Korea, Japan, and the United States. Ties have never been closer among these four dictators, among these four dictatorships. They support each other's aggressive endeavors. They prop each other up financially and they scheme to undermine America's objectives. We should expect them to continue this behavior. This context plays out across every dimension of national power, the economy, technology, diplomacy, and more. But today we're here to talk about the military dimension of this competition. These regimes have regularly tried to take by force what they cannot secure through the political process. For that reason, we must be ready to deter conflicts and, if necessary, to win them. President Trump has used the U.S. military appropriately and effectively for American interests. He has viewed our adversaries as a united bloc and has taken action in light of that reality. In Operation Absolute Resolve and associated statecraft, the president removed an aspiring dictator off the board and set up Venezuela for a future aligned with democratic interests. In Operation Midnight Hammer, he sought to eliminate the Ayatollah's nuclear program. When the Ayatollah chose to double down, the president launched Operation Epic Fury. In that mission, he has worked to remove the regime's conventional military capabilities and force it back to the table for a permanent solution. While we all mourn the tragic loss of the 14 service members who've lost their lives in this conflict, we do so knowing the world is safer without a nuclear Iran. All of these actions are part of a peace through strength strategy. In this approach, we seek first to avoid war, but we take military action when necessary to achieve U.S. interest. And so, Mr. Secretary, I'm pleased that you are here testifying today in support of President Trump's historic $1.5 trillion defense budget request. That sum will go a long way toward rebuilding our military capabilities for a generation. I should say up front that this may be a long hearing. There's much to discuss. This $1.5 trillion request is chock full of important programs and initiatives that are absolutely necessary to secure American interest in the 21st century. I think this funding underpins and accentuates three comparative advantages the United States possesses over the axis of aggressors. The first comparative advantage America enjoys over our adversaries is that we have the best innovation and industry in the world. So I hope our witnesses today will cover the progress we've made in just the past year rebuilding the American arsenal. Last year, our reconciliation bill, combined with bipartisan appropriation bills, achieved about $1 trillion defense budget. This year's request would represent a near 50% increase. Every penny of it should be money well spent, making down payments on crucial transformational capabilities such as drone warfare, low-cost munitions, and missile defense. Also last year, Congress and the executive branch achieved historic acquisition reforms. Consequently, we're well positioned to make huge gains on efficiency this year and in the years to come, making it much more flexible and a more timely process. I look forward to discussing how we might accelerate implementation of these actions. In particular, I'd like to see the Pentagon do more this year to drive competition in the defense industrial base. Competition absolutely drives better outcomes for our service members and taxpayers. Of course, our people are the final comparative advantage we have over our adversaries. We've enjoyed significant improvements in recruitment and retention, but we need to solidify a merit-based environment that fully cares for our personnel. I commend you, Mr. Secretary, for your efforts over the past year to do just that. That task will never be finished, of course, but we embrace it gladly and we salute the progress. We will always be striving to care for and equip American service members as much as possible. I look forward to more work between this committee and the department this coming year. With that, I turn to my friend and colleague, Ranking Member Jack Reed.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and Secretary Hegseth, General Caine, Mr. Hurst, welcome. And please convey my appreciation, all of our appreciation to our military service members and defense civilians. We owe them our deepest sense of gratitude. Mr. Secretary, this is your first public appearance before this committee in nearly a year. Since your last public testimony, you and President Trump have unwisely taken the United States to war with Iran. You ordered attack on Venezuela and have directed ongoing illegal boat strike campaign in the Caribbean and Pacific. At your direction, our forces have bombed Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, Syria, Nigeria, and Ecuador. In the United States, you have deployed thousands of troops to cities like Washington, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Portland to police American citizens. And you have personally intervened to end the careers of dozens of military leaders without explanation. These actions will have significant and long-term consequences. Now you appear before us to ask for a $1.5 trillion budget, a 45% increase above last year. I must say I'm skeptical, and such a request demands intense scrutiny. 61 days ago, President Trump unilaterally began the war in Iran. He had no coherent strategy. He refused to make a case to the American people or consult Congress. He failed to present any evidence of an immediate threat, and he ignored the advice of military and intelligence experts who warned him of the consequences. Today, our nation is in a worse strategic position. The Strait of Hormuz was open, now it is closed. 13 service members have tragically lost their lives, and more than 400 have been wounded. We have lost dozens of aircraft, sustained significant damage to our bases in the area, and expended an alarming amount of our missile inventory. Morale and readiness across the force, especially among overdeployed units and vessels like the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier, have suffered. Gasoline and fertilizer prices throughout the world have surged. American families are bearing the cost of a war they wanted nothing to do with and have gained nothing from. And yet, Secretary Hegseth, you declared victory a month ago. On April 8th, you said, in your words, Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory. By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered its combat forces ineffective for years to come. Let me be clear. Tactically, the United States military performance against Iran has been remarkable, and I salute the service members who have executed this mission with skill and bravery. The problem with your statements, Mr. Secretary, is they are dangerously exaggerated. Iran's hardline regime remains in place. It still retains stockpiles of enriched uranium, and its nuclear program remains viable. Iran's military retains enough combat effectiveness to keep the conflict at an impasse. Its missiles and drones remain a far greater threat than you have acknowledged, and the regime has demonstrated it can effectively control the Strait of Hormuz when it chooses. Mr. Secretary, I am concerned that you have been telling the President what he wants to hear instead of what he needs to hear. Bold assurances of success are a disservice to both the Commander-in-Chief and the troops who risk their lives based on them. Our military has performed heroically, but military force without a sound strategy is a path to long-term defeat. I'd like to know what options you are considering now, given the cost from this war and the stalemate President Trump has put us in. More broadly, Mr. Secretary, too often you have made dangerous statements that are counterproductive to the mission. You boasted about, quote, no stupid rules of engagement, just days after hundreds of Iranian schoolgirls were tragically killed in a missile strike. You have made troubling statements about showing no mercy and no quarter to the Iranians, orders that would constitute war crimes. As importantly, while our men and women are fighting and dying overseas, you have focused unduly on your own personal agenda. In the past 2 months alone, you have taken upon yourself to overhaul the chaplain corps, cancel flu vaccine requirements, repeal firearm restrictions on military posts, and bar service members from attending certain universities. Just this week, you brought performer Kid Rock to an Army base to go for a joyride in an Apache helicopter after dismissing an earlier investigation into the pilots who recklessly chose to hover above his home. That runs directly counter to the chain of command and maintaining good order and discipline. Most disturbingly, during your tenure, you have fired dozens of our most senior military leaders and personally intervened to block the promotions of many others. That is a betrayal of the merit-based system that forms the foundation of our military. You are hollowing out the military's bench of experienced and highest performing senior officers while making young officers wonder if they should continue to serve. My colleagues and I have heard from countless service members throughout the ranks, many of whom will be watching right now, who are confused and disturbed by your actions. Hopefully you can explain them today. Additionally, this committee expects a fulsome update on Operation Southern Sphere. This ongoing campaign against suspected drug trafficking boats has resulted in nearly 200 fatalities. The administration has failed to explain the long-term objectives of this mission or provide any evidence of reduced drug flows into the United States. I would ask for a credible answer to this most fundamental question: what is the operation actually meant to accomplish? Mr. Secretary, you are here to promote the President's $1.5 trillion defense budget. While this budget provides funding for necessary programs, including shipbuilding and drone manufacturing, many other critical programs like barracks repair and aircraft procurement would rely on the passage of a party line reconciliation bill. Further, this budget slashes research and development, provides no funding for Ukraine, and includes no funding for losses incurred from the Iran war. Yesterday, Mr. Hurst testified that Operation Epic Fury has cost $25 billion. If nothing else, that help clarifies that we certainly do not need a supplemental anywhere near $100 billion, much less $200 billion. And in this record-breaking budget, there is no pay adjustments for the civilian workforce, and with inflation, that is a pay cut. After a year of DOGE layoffs and a hiring freeze across the department, this is an insult to the 800,000 men and women who support our warfighters every day. I cannot imagine a faster way to erode readiness and distract from our abilities to deter our adversaries. Ultimately, Mr. Secretary, I believe you are causing lasting harm to the military. Like many members of this committee, I had the opportunity and the privilege to serve in the military. And every officer knows they are duty-bound to give their best professional advice, even if it is not what their superiors want to hear. Because when leaders fear to speak honestly, people die, missions fail, wars are lost. The American people's trust in our military took 250 years to build. You are dismantling it in a fraction of that time. And trust, once long, can take generations to rebuild. Mr. Secretary, today I hope you'll take a step forward toward rebuilding the trust that has been lost. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary, you are now recognized for your opening statement, sir.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Reed, Senators, thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of President Trump's historic, as you said, Mr. Chairman, $1.5 trillion fiscal year 2027 budget for the Department of War. The President's budget request reflects the urgency of the moment, addressing both the deferment of long-standing problems as well as positioning our forces for the current and future fights. I'm honored to appear alongside General Dan Caine, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Jay Hurst, our Chief Financial Officer and Comptroller. I'd like to start by thanking this committee and Congress for your partnership in securing the investment needed for a stronger, prouder, and more secure military. Your focus on acquisitions, your focus on efficiency are the reflection in our department as well and in this budget. A nation's ability to build, to innovate, and to support the critical needs of its warfighters at speed and at scale is the foundation upon which its deterrence and survival rests. However, upon taking office on January 20th, 2025, President Trump inherited a defense industrial base that had been hollowed out by years of America Last policies, resulting in a diminished capacity to project strength. Under the previous administration, we were offshoring, outsourcing, beset by cost overruns and degraded capabilities. But under the leadership of President Trump, our builder-in-chief, we are reversing this systemic decay and putting our defense industrial base back on a wartime footing. Urgency informs everything we do. We're rebuilding a military that the American people can be proud of, one that instills nothing less than unrelenting fear in our adversaries and inspires historic morale and recruiting in its ranks. We fight to win in every scenario. The $1.5 trillion budget put forward by the president will build upon a previous $1 trillion FY26 top line and will continue to reverse the 4 years of underinvestment and mismanagement of the Biden administration. The $1.5 trillion budget will ensure that the United States continues to maintain the world's most powerful and capable military as we grapple with a complex threat environment across multiple theaters. Not to mention, the budget also includes a historic troop pay increase, 7% for junior enlisted, and the budget eliminates all poor or failing barracks. Quality of life for our troops is front and center in this budget. By supercharging our defense industrial capacity and transforming how the department does business, we are restoring American commercial dominance at a pace unseen in generations, transforming the defense industrial base from the broken, slow-moving systems of the past. We have flipped the Pentagon acquisition process from a bureaucratic model to a business model, decisively moving from an acquisitions environment paralyzed by bureaucratic red tape into an outcomes-driven organization focused on delivering the most for taxpayer dollars. Over the past year, through historic multi-year procurement agreements that this committee supported, we've cut smart business deals that have sent unambiguous demand signals to industry to build more and build faster. The result has been a surge, a revitalization of our great American factories and a massive reinvestment in the skilled American workers who serve as the industrial muscle behind our warriors. You're a war criminal. You should be arrested. What you're doing is despicable. The American people do not want to go to this war. We don't want to fight a war for any people. This is not the
Further interruptions of our hearing will be treated in like manner. We appreciate the First Amendment rights of Americans to express themselves, but disruption of this hearing will not be tolerated. So, Mr. Secretary, you may continue.
I'll briefly provide some concrete high-level metrics of what we've accomplished over just the past few months. These are announced new facilities and investments to support American warfighters. The department has helped stimulate more than 250 private investment deals in 39 states, 180 cities, in 150 companies worth more than $50 billion. It's resulted in 280 new or expanded facilities, more than 18 million new square feet of American manufacturing, and more than 70,000 new jobs. These $50 billion in investments in new plants, new assembly lines, and new factories are private investments, not taxpayer dollars. By completely transforming our department's business model, American companies are investing in America with their own dollars, a historic demonstration of American manufacturing and defense revitalization, all with their money, not Uncle Sam's. This has never been done before and is long overdue, from a bureaucratic model to a business model. These investments equal great things for America, for American families, and American workers, to ensure that our warfighters have everything they need, all American made. Together with the help of the policy updates and appropriations passed by Congress, President Trump's War Department has begun to turn the lights back on in our manufacturing towns across this country, forging a lethal arsenal of freedom. Every policy we pursue, every budgetary item we request serves to ensure that this department remains laser-focused on increasing lethality and survivability from the front lines to the factory floor. This is a historic budget, as you said, Mr. Chairman. This is a fiscally responsible budget, and this is a warfighting budget. Speaking of warfighting, the topic of Iran, I'm sure, will come up often today, which I welcome. I look forward to sharing the incredible success of our military effort achieved in a matter of weeks. President Trump has the courage, has had, unlike other presidents, to ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon and that their nuclear blackmail never succeeds. We have the best negotiator in the world driving a great deal. Unfortunately, as I said yesterday, and I'll say it again today, the biggest adversary we face at this point are the reckless naysayers and defeatist words of congressional Democrats and some Republicans. Defeatists from the cheap seats who 2 months in seek to undermine the incredible efforts that have been undertaken and the historic nature of taking on a 47-year threat with the courage no other president has had, to great success and great opportunity for preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. Despite this, under President Trump, we are restoring the unbreakable might of American manufacturing. We're providing for our warfighters, and we are putting the people and interests of this country first. May Almighty God continue to watch over our troops wherever they are, and may we honor the legacy of those brave Americans that we have lost. This is our sacred mission, and this is what we will continue to execute on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that statement, Mr. Secretary. General Caine, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, members of the committee, and your staff, who we never get to say thanks to. Thanks for having me today. I'm honored to be here alongside the Honorable Pete Hegseth and the Honorable Jay Hurst to testify on the President's fiscal 2027 budget. I'm grateful for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm thankful for your continued partnership and support of our warfighters defending the homeland and our interests around the world. It's a privilege to speak with you today about the foundation of America's strength, the 2.8 million members of our joint force. And I am continually inspired by the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, Coast Guardsmen, and civilians standing the watch for the nation, supported always by their families. They could have chosen a much easier path, any other path, but they volunteered for a life of purpose and passion and service. And every single day they rise to meet the nation's challenges, from combat operations to critical support roles, with the courage, tenacity, and grit that keeps our nation strong and secure. I would also like to express my deep gratitude for the 39 members of the Joint Force who've passed in operations, combat, and training during my time as the chairman, and specifically highlight the 14 who've passed in Operation Epic Fury. The Secretary and I are deeply grateful for each of them and their families, and their names will never be forgotten. As the chairman, my duty is to ensure our civilian leadership has a comprehensive range of military options and the associated risks required to make the nation's hardest and most complex decisions. I owe the President, the Secretary, and the Congress the truth at every turn. And my blueprint for this role has always been that of General George C. Marshall. His firm commitment to civilian control and a nonpartisan military remains my constant standard. And I strive to emulate his candor, delivering the facts leaders need to hear, not always what they want to hear. And once a decision is made, executing it with the absolute dedication while keeping the joint force precisely where it should be. That's the demand of our profession. As I sit before you today representing our incredible joint force, I want to emphasize my commitment to this committee and to the Congress. I will always follow General Marshall's steadfast example by providing clear and candid nonpartisan military advice, working together to ensure the military remains squarely focused on one thing, being prepared to deter and, if called upon, fight and win our nation's war. And that is our mission. America's joint force is operational at its core, purpose-built for the realities in a complex world. We're organized, trained, and equipped to execute the most demanding missions across the globe with unrivaled precision. And over the past year, our warfighters have consistently demonstrated exactly what it means to be the most capable and most professional force on earth. Our shared goal is to ensure the joint force sustains the strategic initiative and advantage and ability to project power to respond to the global challenges on our nation's terms. During Operation Rough Rider, Midnight Hammer, Southern Spear, Absolute Resolve, and Epic Fury, the Joint Force executed globally integrated missions alongside our interagency and international partners. And once our leaders made a decision, our forces demonstrated the unmatched ability to seamlessly synchronize actions and activities from the seabed to cislunar space. We're able to accomplish these complex things that we are asked to do because we draw from a deep reservoir of training, professionalism, and commitment. Our operational tempo is high, but we're designed to sustain it, rebuilding readiness every day, training professionals every day, and sharpening our edge every day. And I am incredibly proud of this Joint Force team and the leaders at every echelon who command it. As the chairman said, we are living in a complex environment. Today, I look forward to discussing how we can sustain America's military advantage. And I know this committee recognizes the challenges and the urgency in the environment that we face. We're operating in delicate and dangerous times where risk is scaling, and the complexity of the modern battlefield demands America's constant adaptation, innovation, and partnership with Congress. As a joint force, we're up to the challenge. We're built for this environment. However, our continued success is not guaranteed by our past achievements. We must continue to be forward-looking and innovate together with the Congress. To drive the pace of change and maintain our superiority requires timely, predictable, and sustained investment. And the resources we're going to discuss today are critical to modernizing the joint force and ensuring whatever threats might emerge, we are prepared to defeat them, to protect our interests, and defend the nation and win. This President's budget for 2027 supports the Secretary and the Department's goal of reinvigorating, recharging the defense industrial base and the national industrial base, enhancing our readiness and securing our military advantage to ensure that our warfighters are properly armed, globally integrated, and ready while always taking care of our people. And that is what truly sets America's joint force apart from each other, especially the 1.8 million members, enlisted members of our joint force. It is them, the character, the competence of that force that transforms our capabilities into a decisive advantage. And our enlisted force is represented today by the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman, United States Navy Fleet Master Chief Dave Isom, sitting behind me, a teammate who I greatly appreciate and many of you on this committee know from his time in the Indo-Pacific. While we face dynamic and dangerous times, I have absolute trust and confidence in the extraordinary men and women within our joint force who every day execute the missions we ask them to quietly and with precision. And coupled with the American spirit to outthink, outcompete, and relentlessly innovate, we will maintain our decisive edge, but doing so requires your continued partnership. We stand ready today to answer the nation's call. I humbly ask that as we're here today in this hearing, we remember those deployed service members who are out there right now doing our nation's work. And may we always remember our fallen and never forget them or their families who continue to show us what courage looks like. Thank you for your enduring support, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, General. We appreciate your service. Let's jump right in. Secretary Hegseth, let's talk about the money from Reconciliation 1.0 last year. There have been some complaints about the speed, but not everything we hear is actually accurate. How much of the $154 billion from reconciliation has the Pentagon put on contract?
My understanding, Mr. Chairman, first I'd like to say what an important vehicle reconciliation was for us and how it gave us a chance coming out of FY25 to advance the president's priorities, whether it's drone dominance, Golden Dome for America, shipbuilding, the defense industrial base. It was a critical vehicle for us. The number you're looking for is about, what I'm looking at, about $26 billion right now. But we've got the floodgates about to open and apply to those priorities.
Okay, so unfortunately, you're starting a bit late through no fault of your own because the money was not sent timely by the Office of Management and Budget to the department until last month. That's over and done with, but it should be mentioned. Mr. Secretary, where are we on the obligation rates as far as a normal appropriation bill? Are we a little behind, a little ahead, or what?
I would say probably a little bit behind as it pertains to reconciliation, but part of that is, as you know, this is a new funding vehicle for the department. And twofold. One, you got to make sure you do it right and do it in a fiscally responsible way in conjunction with the Congress to ensure that we meet congressional intent. But also that we've been using it to energize our ability to exercise new pathways, to get at problems in different and more dynamic ways that don't get stovepiped or stuck in the bureaucracy. So yes, there's been some delays, but ultimately I think it's all goodness on the other side, given the new nature of this funding vehicle.
Right. Yes. Well, and things have been done differently, and we appreciate that. But Mr. Secretary, will you commit to us that you'll keep the committee informed frequently of your efforts to get all this money out the door, so our industrial base can start building as you have described in this new flexibility that we provided them?
Absolutely.
And you mentioned a few things in reconciliation that you think have been game changers. I don't think we've talked enough about some of the game changers. For years, we failed to take action on rebuilding America's drone industrial base and critical mineral supply chains. After last reconciliation bill and the National Defense Authorization Act, we're in a very different position on drones and critical mineral supply chains, are we not?
Very much so. Mineral supply chains, drones, we went from JIATA 401 to an autonomous warfare group. We're looking at the concept of a sub-unified command, and you're looking at $54 billion in the FY27 budget dedicated to drone dominance, UAS, counter-UAS, ensuring we can scale not just exquisite drones, but also the attritable ones that are proliferating on the battlefield today. We need to be ahead.
Are there any other initiatives from last year's bill that you want to point out? And you only have a minute and a half.
The investment in Golden Dome for America,
Right.
The ability to get running on that, and we are on schedule to deliver capabilities inside this administration. Minerals and shoring up supply chains on minerals. The Office of Strategic Capital, which its ability to loan gives 10x to new entrants into the department, the opportunity to fund things that wouldn't normally meet the threshold for the department, but give them the running room to invest in those capabilities, and we've already seen fruit from that as well.
And briefly, General Caine, there's no question that Vladimir Putin's Russia is taking serious action to undermine our efforts for success in Iran. Is there any question about that?